Hello everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another live stream here at my YouTube channel. I'm excited to do a little bit of crafting with all of you tonight. And today this is actually a little bit of a part 2 from last week. Some of you might remember in my live last week that I was using this bundle of product from my March 2025 release, and there was a question in the chat that said, hey, can you use the background stamp with the stencils? And I said, I don't think so. I don't think they match. Turns out they do. And so I really wanted to try it. So we're going to do that tonight. So sorry to keep using the same product over and over, but I was just so intrigued by the idea of using both of these together. And I'm also really just loving ink blending through stencils right now. I'm in my stencil era, as the young kids would say, I guess. So I'm going to be using the Pretty Posies background stamp plus the Pretty Posies stencil. And I thought maybe I would do like a little bit of, I might do 2 backgrounds tonight. I might do one that has the stamp with it, and then I might do one that is just the stencil. So we'll see. We're going to try it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is get my stamped background ready. Hello, everyone over in the chat. I saw Rosie popping in saying that she was quickly watching the mail call. I messaged her on Instagram and I'm like, girl, you won postage stamps from our friend Bunny. And she's like, what? I didn't even know mail call happened. So, yes. Hello, Rosie. I did mail call last week live on Wednesday. So if you would love to see, seriously, it was like 2 hours of the most amazing cards. Every single month, they just get better and better and better. And I just love it. I just love it so much. Okay, so let's stamp this background. And I'm going to tell you guys, well, I go over this in my walkthrough video, but I wanted to tell you even more, like something you can do when you're peeling your stamps off the backer sheet. It's like, be really gentle. Don't like pull on the stamp itself, because it can start to stretch the stamp and then it's not as accurate. And especially since we are going to be matching it up with the stencil tonight, we want it to be as accurate to the original form as possible. So I'm even pressing the stamp down, giving it a little bit more stability as I pull it off the sheet. You can kind of see that as I pull it, it does sort of warp the design just a little bit. I'm trying to be really careful. Give it a little bit of strength as I peel this off. Okay, there we go. All right, and we'll just stamp this off in this corner. I think I will probably eventually trim this down a little bit. So if it doesn't catch the edge, I'm not that concerned. Okay. Let's keep that in one place. I'm going to stamp it in, let's see. I think I want to do gold embossing, so I'm going to stamp it in Watermark. Actually, no, I'm going to stamp it in white pigment ink so I can kind of see it. Oh, Rhonda says she's just got this bundle. Let's see. Yeah, someone else said they just received it. Gina, I haven't been over to the UPS store since mail call, unfortunately. I had an out-of-town visitor this weekend at my house, and so I wasn't able to go check. But I will go check, and I will reply to your email and let you know if it has arrived. Okay. You know what? I forgot to do my anti-sag powder tool. Let's do that. All right. La, 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 la. I'm going to be making an A2 card tonight, Linda. So I've got my anti-static powder. Probably didn't have to ink up this entire stamp because it's not going to stamp that one side, but that's okay. All right, make sure that's in that bottom corner. Just use my stamp press over this to get really even stamping. When I was dropping my friend off at the airport earlier, it was 68 degrees. I was like, oh, is this spring? Is spring coming? Okay. I was hoping I would see the stamp lines, but I don't really see them. But that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and I will leave this, well, I'm going to clean out the stamp, but I'm going to leave it in my MISTI just, you know, in case I need to stamp another background, like if this didn't stamp very well, or if I need to restamp it or something. I hate cleaning up pigment ink off large stamps. It's so messy. But you know what? That's what we do. Hi, Beth. You are not late at all. I just started a few minutes ago. The first thing I'm doing is stamping this background stamp, and we're going to heat emboss it with gold embossing powder. Where's my green shirt? You know, sadly, I'm not wearing green today. No St. Patrick's Day, sorry. Okay, I'm going to leave this in my MISTI for now. Close that up and grab my gold embossing powder and just sprinkle this on. This is gilded embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. See, it didn't really pick up as much as I hoped it would. It's a little sketchy. It's not, well, I don't know if you guys can really see. I might need to restamp it and stamp it in Watermark ink instead. Or I should have stamped it twice. Yeah, I'm going to. I'm not even going to finish that. In my gut, I was like, is this the right move? It was not the right move, Christina said. Okay. Let's do this again. And this time I'll do Watermark. In fact, actually, I have a brand new Hero Arts embossing and Watermark ink pad. So maybe I'll just break this one out. Here we go. We'll do this one. So we'll get nice sticky lines so it will emboss better. Doing my anti-static powder tool. This is just on a piece of A2 solar white cardstock. This is the 80 pound. Hello, Francis. Hello, Beth. Gina, Melissa, Linda, Cairo. Love it. Okay, so this is the embossing and watermark ink pad from Hero Arts. It will be very sticky, and I'm going to stamp this twice to make sure I get really solid lines. That's my plan. All right, make sure that's in the corner. Stamp that down. All right. Press that down. Stuck to the, you know what? In fact, I can see that it's stamped a whole lot better. Do you guys see that? Just like the ghost of the image. I don't know that I need to, I don't think I need to stamp that twice. I'm going to try just the one because this is a brand new juicy ink pad. I think it's going to be great. All right, so this is gilded embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. Oh, that's so much better. It's my favorite gold embossing powder. I think it's like not too yellow, but it's also not too almost like platinum, you know, like I want gold, you know? And I also think it matches the matte gold cardstock from Simon Says Stamp and Concord and Ninth really well. Oh yeah, that's a much better stamping. Okay, I love that. Now I'm going to hit this with my heat tool. And I have not used my heat tool today, so it is very cold and I want to prevent warping the cardstock as much as possible. So I'm going to kind of let this run for just, I don't know, 20 seconds or so that it has a chance to really get at its most hot before I bring it to my project. Let that kind of warm up a little bit. So it's not going to come out perfectly hot right off the bat. Okay, here we go. And also, if you kind of keep it moving, that helps prevent warping. And then on the back. Excuse me. Okay. I'm getting that gold embossing. Oh, I love it. Just watching for when the powder melts. Flip this around. I think using metallic embossing powders is one of the easiest ones to use because you really can see when it changes colors and the powder is melted. Love it. Let's see here. Oh, I have like tweezers and a peg and things that I could use to hold my embossing stuff while I'm using the heat tool, but I don't know. Sometimes you gotta live dangerously, you know? I'm not doing water sports. I'm not jumping out of planes. This is my risky business. Trying to emboss with a heat tool with it, you know, holding it really close, right? That's the excitement in my life. Okay, so I'm using a grip mat. Because the stencils I'm using today are large, they're 6x9, I should be able to stick my background, you know, wherever I want on this, and then I can line up the stencils just over top. Okay. I'm just putting that in place. I don't like to remove it from the backer sheet because it's just like one more thing to do here. Okay. So now we have to figure out how the stencil lines up. Well, first of all, this is how the stamp is. Which way? Okay, like this. Perfect. So I think it's going to be about, I do know that the stamp image is about in the center of the stencil. I do know that. So I'm going to put it kind of right there. Like this would be in the center. And then the stencil set has 5 stencils for all the flowers in the background. And it also has this one right here that you can use with the 4x6 stamp set. So you can do the individual flowers as well as the greetings in those larger areas. So I'm not going to be using this stencil today. I'm going to be using these 5, I should say. And I'm also making sure they're all lined up with the etched words in the bottom corner. Do you see that right there? You want the etched words. It has Christina Werner, and over here it says Pretty Posies in this bottom corner. Do you guys see that? There we go. So as long as all 5 stencils are with that orientation, you want the etching facing up, and you want that etched line at the bottom. Just keep that same orientation, and then you should be able to line up your stencils pretty well. Okay, so here's our first set of flowers. I'm going to get these as lined up, as much lined up as possible. Being that I used a clear background stamp, and you know, like I was saying, we were trying to prevent any warping. Sometimes that's just not possible to completely prevent that. So just to make it easy on myself, because I'm a perfectionist, I'm just going to like ink blend this flower. I'll lift the stencil and then move on and do these others that I couldn't get quite lined up. Here are the colors I'm using up here. Midnight is going to be the background, Sunflower for the center of the flowers, and then I have 4 colors for the flowers themselves. I'm using Dragonfruit, Fig, Juniper, and Clementine. Those are the ones that I'm using today. I have fallen in love with the ink stand. I was sleeping on this product. I didn't think I needed it. I most definitely did. Let's start with Clementine. I most definitely needed an ink stand, and I have really enjoyed using it since I got it. Okay, so I'm just going to concentrate on this flower right up here. I want to do like concentrated color on the edges and bring it in a little bit and leave that center more bright. I recently did a mailer envelope for my premium members here at YouTube using my Simple Flowers stencil set, and I loved how it turned out. And I kind of did an ink blending like this, and it was so fun. So I thought I would do something like that for this one today too. All right, like I said, it doesn't line up perfectly because of that clear stamp, so I'm gonna lift this up, kind of slide it over to the next spot. In fact, I might kind of get both of these lined up about right for these down here. These two flowers look good like that, so I'm gonna ink blend these two down here. And my Clementine ink pad is very juicy. So I'm trying to remind myself, like, don't come in and like stamp down with the ink. I'm kind of starting away from where I want to blend and then coming in. Yeah, just like that. Oh, that looks great. All right, let's see. We want these two flowers up here in that top corner. That looks about right. We'll just come around and get all the ink blending. Sorry, my hand is blocking what's happening. Let's get that around that area. Okay. We'll lift this up very carefully. Okay. I like to clean my stencils with alcohol, just rubbing alcohol. This is just a fine mister bottle from Altenew. You can use whatever you've got, but I really like to use alcohol, rubbing alcohol, because it dries so fast. And like I said, I would really like to do 2 of this stencil set, like 2 backgrounds tonight. I don't know if I'll have time, but I would love to do 2, and so I need to make sure I clean off my stencils before I move on. All right, I'm gonna save this background. I think that'd be really pretty just on its own, but I'm gonna save this one for last because it's gonna do the background as well. Okay, let's do this one next. And we will use, let's use Dragonfruit. Shy says that sticky matte thingy is awesome. Yes, I so agree. I love it so much. Let me see if I can get these all lined up, or as close as possible. Okay. I've got these 3. I'll have to move it for this one down here to make it line up perfectly, but I'm not too concerned. Okay. Coming in with a different blending brush. These are Altenew mini blending brushes, and they are perfect for, oh wow, that's really bright. Perfect for stenciling smaller areas like this, or if you just want to really concentrate color. I've really loved working with them for a while now. I'll add them to the supply list when I'm done here. The only products I have on the supply list right now is the Pretty Posies bundle, and I also thought I'd use my Encouraging Words stamp and dies for a greeting on my card today. So those are the only things that are in the supply list so far, but I'll update the supply list when I'm done being live. When I'm no longer live, I'll just update it. Okay, just bringing a little more of that pink in the center, kind of softening it. And then I want to move this stencil down a little bit to get this flower really centered. I kind of want to preserve some of the white, and that didn't happen with that flower, so I'm trying to be even more careful as I come in down here. Try to fade off that pink just a little bit earlier. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, and then we have this flower over here on the right edge. Notice I'm like adding more. It's almost like more on the outside of where the area is than on. That's because I just want the edge of my blending to catch the area. So it keeps that area really soft. Okay. There's our second flower. I'm going to spray with my rubbing alcohol once again. Just like 3 or 4 little spritzes. And then I can wipe off the stencil. And sometimes you need to wipe the back too. Okay. We'll move on to this one. Actually, let's do this one because I think it's going to have, yeah, that big flower right in the center. So I'm going to start by lining up this top corner up here, that one flower. Get that lined up as best that I can. And let's have this one be the color Fig. Seriously, one of my favorite purples. Lori says, I've got Dragonfruit ink. It's bright and so beautiful. Yes, it's, oh my word. Fig and Dragonfruit, totally some of my favorites. Okay, I'm gonna grab my purple blending brush. Once again, starting away from that flower. And then I'm gonna come in and just try to really softly add that color. So my Simple Flowers stencil has really big flowers. It's much easier to get like a soft blend with the concentrated edges. That's a really fun one. Okay, yeah, that one kept the area white a little bit more. And that's what I'm going for. But I do want to get this top edge here. I want that to be a little more concentrated. There we go. All right, I'm going to pick up my stencil and move it. You know, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to line it up perfectly just because of the nature of the stencil. Oh, and I just noticed this is probably an area where I changed the stencil. These little corners down here, it doesn't line up perfectly. I didn't like on purpose design the stencil set to go with the background stamp. I think this is just a happy accident that it works so well. So finding this little spot that doesn't line up absolutely perfectly, I'm not that upset about. Because I do remember I had to modify the stencil a little bit to make it work. It just overlapped into that orange. You see that right there? The orange flower? I guess I could have masked it off, but that's okay. It might end up being cut off on the final card anyway. It's near the edge. Okay, getting that top flower lined up the best that I can. There we go. Lori says, thank you for, what about alcohol inks? Oh, you're talking about, yeah, spray alcohols, yeah. All right, I'll come in here and get the outer edge of this flower. Just getting that ink blended really well. All right, lift that up. Oh, I love how this is looking already. I'll do the center, that big center flower now. coming in, making sure it's more concentrated on the edge of the petals. You can also, you know, change the rotation of your circles. Make sure you're getting all the edges of the stencil. Okay, just getting, with whatever ink's left on my brush, I'm just kind of trying to get that to fade into the center there. Okay. And then we've got just this one on the right edge, and then there's the one in the bottom center. We're almost done with the flowers. We only have one more flower color to do. I think it also would be so pretty to like do the ink blending so it's like rainbow flowers going all the way down. I think that'd be really fun. Okay. Ta-da! I guess we actually have, do we have 2 more flower ones to do? No, just the one. Okay, so that was purple. Let me spray my stencil with the alcohol, the rubbing alcohol. Okay. Oh, one more wipe on that stencil. This is the, oh gosh, is it 7 by 10 grip mat from Waffle Flower? Is that the size of it? I can't remember the size of it. Pretty sure that's what it is though. Okay, so this one should get these last few flowers. Lovely. And I'm going to change to the color Juniper. All right, we'll start with this flower up here in this top left corner. Grabbing my ink blending brush for Juniper. My Juniper ink pad is not quite as juicy. I've been using a lot of Juniper lately. All right, we'll get that one in the top center. Get a little bit of that blending up there, all the way around. Okay. I'll get this little flower in the center. All right, I'm going to move this one before I get the bottom edge of that flower because this big flower needs to be lined up. Okay, this flower right here needed to be lined up so I could get these edges just a little bit better because they're so close, they're going to overlap. Okay. I love the gold with this Juniper. For St. Patrick's Day, it would be perfect. Okay. I have this little flower in this bottom corner. I guess I have flowers in both bottom corners, really. I'm going to get this one first. All right, and then we've just got two more. We'll do the one that's in the center on the right edge. Oh, thank you, Twyla. Is it Twyla? Yeah, Twyla. Twyla. Thank you, Twyla. Trying to glance up and look at the chat as often as I can. If any of you have a specific question, it's very helpful, so helpful. If you type the word question all in caps, then I really see it. It's a little bit easier to pick it out of the chat when I glance up. And even if I don't see it, everyone in the chat is always so friendly and willing to help if they're able. I do know there were a couple people who won giveaways at the end of mail call last week that have not gotten in contact with me yet. Wait, what flower was up there? I missed one. There was a flower that would have been just right on that edge. Looks like it probably was my very first. Yeah, it would have been Clementine. So I'm just gonna get this little spot up here. I'll come back to Clementine. And I need to clean both of these stencils here in a minute. A little bit of that Clementine right up in that top corner. Lovely. Yes, Michelle, us little leprechauns are nice peeps. Yes, it's true. Looks like I also missed a flower right there. Is that also the orange? No. What flower is that right there? I'm gonna have to look at the stencils again and see where I missed it. Okay, I've got to clean my green one, my juniper stencil really quick. It doesn't look like it was the juniper. Well, maybe it was. I don't know. It was. Oh, actually, no. I don't know what it was. That looks like it was something that moved. I don't think it lines up with anything. Well, I'm glad it's on the edge. I told you, this technically was not made, the stencils, I had to move things around to make it work as a stencil. So I'm pretty sure there were areas that do not match up. So for instance, down here, and then I guess right here on this edge. They're both on the edge, thankfully. Okay, so now we have this background. So I just have to get this lined up. And I'm gonna have to kind of like do a section and then shift the stencil and do more. So, and I'm also, because I want to do the centers of the flowers a different color, I'm gonna have to lift the stencil, clean it, and then come back and do more. Okay, I'm just trying to get the centers here lined up. I'm gonna do the centers first. Doing the color Sunflower. I'm gonna grab my yellow blending brush. And I'm gonna try to be really careful as I come in on these centers. In fact, I might switch to an even smaller brush. I think I will. I'm gonna switch to one of these little itty bitty brushes from Waffle Flower. Yeah, I think this flower had to shift, and so it would be right here, but that's where that discrepancy is. Okay, coming in with a little bit of Sunflower, or a lot, because my Sunflower ink pad is very juicy. I'm just gonna line up the centers of each, and I can just pounce in with a little bit of that Sunflower. Okay. kind of moving the stencil around just a little bit as I bring the center in with the yellow. I'm not really sticking it down really hard because it's such a small area and I'm not applying much pressure, and it's easier just to keep it a little bit mobile so I can move it around as I do each flower center. Okay, I think I got them all. Super cute. All right, I'm going to clean this stencil and then we're going to come back and do the background, which we're going to have to be very careful as well because I want to do the color Midnight as the background. And I don't want it to encroach on any of the flower areas. But you can see some of them can come kind of close to the centers of the flower, so I'm going to have to be super careful. All right, I've got my Midnight ink pad. Oh, the Hen House Laura says, I appreciate the size of the stencil as a scrapbooker. That is a very good point. If you're going to scrapbook, you want like a larger stencil to work with, right? Okay, so I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to kind of move it around as I go, like I've been doing. Go over that Midnight. And I want this one to be a little bit more solid. So I'm not going to worry about like doing any like fading of it or anything like that. I mostly just want to get the color really solid in each area and not in the yellow centers. All right, I'm going to slide this over a little bit so I can get this area a little better. Blending that in. Oh, Twyla, that is so generous. Thank you. Thank you so much. Twyla just sent me a super chat. I appreciate those so much, y'all. Especially since I've started turning ads off when I'm live, just because YouTube can get kind of aggressive with how many ads they're serving you all. And I know how annoying that is. Okay, I'm adding in some more Midnight all around these edges. This is one of those like stencil sets that it's covering every single bit of the paper. You know, if you do the entire pattern or design. So it just takes a little bit of time, you know? Like we've been stenciling for 40 minutes here. Okay, I'm gonna lift this. I don't want to like reveal the entire thing yet. I got a little peek when I lifted the stencil earlier and I was like, ooh, yes, this is good. So I'm just we're gonna have to wait for the big reveal. I think this stencil in particular would be great, just like one color on a card, or even, you know, you blend the color across, because you do get the entire design. You see the flowers, you know, because it's the background. Hold on, let me lift this and slide this over a little bit. Get it centered better. Now, I knew that I would be able to do the background without getting the centers of the flowers, because I did a card with this stencil set and I only did the centers. I did not do the background. No. Did I do the background? Yeah, no. I only did the centers. I was trying to think how I did it, but I believe I only did the centers. When I was doing all the samples for this release, that's when I did it. Oh, TJ, that's so sweet. Thank you. Oh, and then the Henhouse Laura says, that would be amazing as background paper and scrapbook. This is super unique and versatile. Thank you. That's so sweet. Sometimes I see the big, huge, like 9x12 stencils that some companies have. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. That is a really big stencil. But I like to do like layered stencils like this, where you have a bunch of color changes and things like that. And just the more stencils you add on to the design, the more complicated it gets with pricing when the stencils are so large. You know what I'm saying? But for how versatile a stencil is, I think it's amazing. Oh, I just got a little bit into the center of that flower. I was getting a little speedy. Not going to be able to walk that back, that dark blue. Oh well. All right, just got these last two little areas. Get those lined up. All right, bring that in right there. I think I've got all the areas. And there we go. Ta-da! I only had a little bit of blue come in right there, which is unfortunate. Oh well. I do have, it looks like I have a little bit of ink kind of sitting on top of those embossing lines. So I'm going to, and it's just in a couple spots. So I'm going to try to wipe that down into the blue. Wipe that down into the blue as well. It's just a couple spots that I can tell that are on the gold lines. Yeah, there's this weird spot over here that the stencil doesn't catch. I'm not sure what that is or what flower that is. It had to move for the stencils, obviously. Okay, so I'm going to use my alcohol, the rubbing alcohol in the mister bottle, and just clean that off. I love the dark blue background. It's so dramatic. I love that. Okay, so I'm going to clean off my grip mat here, and then let's do one more of these, because I'm going to show you how you can use the stencils by themselves. Okay, so this is going to make a really easy card, once I decide to, put it together. I'm going to clean off my grip mat, get that ink off really quick. There was a lot on there, apparently. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to come back through and I'm going to do the stencil again, but not on a stamped background. I'm going to do another A2 card front. You could definitely do like a half sheet of letter and you could get two backgrounds out of it, but I'm just going to do one like this tonight. And I like it to do it this way because you can do there's a lot of stencil that will stick to the grip mat. You know what I'm saying? Okay, let's start with the background this time. So let's get that centered. Da, 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 da. Okay, and what you're going to do when you have it like this on your grip mat or whatever work surface you're working on, you're going to take some tape or Post-it tape or something. You're going to make two little corners with tape up here because you're going to line up these stencils over and over again, and you're going to use these corners as a guide. So I'm just using a little bit of mint tape to create these corners. I don't think that one's going to stick. Hold on. I just ran out of my mint tape right there, but don't you worry, I have regular Post-it tape, which is essentially the same thing. I could also just use my blue tape here if I wanted, because that's very sticky and that'll stick. Okay. So I've got my two corners, and that's going to help me line up this stencil over this whole set of stencils over and over, and that'll work. Imagine the whole background embossed in gold. Oh, that would be amazing. That would be so cool. Do we need to do that? We'll stick with blue. We'll stick with blue. Okay. All right. And just to make it easier on us, I'm going to, I'm not going to do the centers in yellow this time. They're just going to be blue. So I'm starting with Midnight. I'm also switching to a larger brush so I can go over the area even faster. And since I'm using a bigger brush, now is when it's really important to like change directions, you know, pretty frequently. So I make sure I get everything. When I'm not using the background stamp with the stencils, the stenciling should go much faster because I won't need to pick up the stencil and line it up with the stamped lines when I'm doing this. Shlyn, I think that's how you say her name, is asking if this is a layered stencil set. She's just joining us. Yes, it is. There are 5 layers to this stencil. You basically have the background, which also does the centers of the flowers. That's what I'm working with now. And then you have 4 other stencils that do the flowers in different colors. In fact, maybe we'll switch up the flower colors for these other stencils just because we can. We'll have a couple different backgrounds. Okay, so we've got our navy background. Just getting a couple of those other spots that are looking a little not quite as saturated. But I really think this would be really pretty just on its own. Okay, so remember the etching is down here at the bottom, and we're lining up these 2 corners. That's going to make it so that as we do the rest of the layers, they should line up perfectly. Okay, I'm going to clean my stencil. Just using some rubbing alcohol in a mister bottle to clean my stencil. All right, and let's change up the flower colors this time. I think it'd be really funny to do, or not funny, but pretty, to do tones of blue. And Concord and Ninth has some really pretty ones. Let's do Harbor, Aqua Sky, Tide Pool, and Juniper that we've already got over there. Or we could do Oceanside. What do we want to do? Let's see here. Oceanside, Tide Pool. Maybe not Tide Pool. Oceanside, Blueberry, Harbor. Yeah, and Tide Pool. We'll do those. So kind of like 2 teals and 2 blues. So we'll do these colors. I think that could be really pretty. Okay. Let's do some flowers. Okay. So I'm going to grab whatever stencil you want, but they're not numbered or anything. You can do whatever one you want, but I'm going to line it up in these 2 corners. It'll help me get a line. And now that I also have that background done, it helps me align it as well. Okay. Press that down so it sticks to the grip mat. Let's come in with Tide Pool. And I can use bigger blending brushes again. Well, unless I want to do the kind of like the faded centers, which could be really pretty. Yeah, let's do faded centers. So I'll come in with Tide Pool. We'll do faded centers again. But this will go much quicker because we don't have to pick up the stencil and move it around this time. Once again, concentrating the color on the outer edge of the flower, and then just letting it fade off into the center. Okay. I can tell my Tide Pool ink pad needs to be re-inked because I'm having to go back to it multiple times. I've sort of been having like a obsession with Tide Pool and Juniper. I think I've had it in my color palette for all of the release cards for like 2 or 3 months, I think. I just keep wanting to use Tide Pool and Juniper. Okay, get these last few. These last couple down here in this corner. Okay. I'll pull this up very carefully without breaking a nail. There we go. Oh, I think this is going to be so pretty with different colors of blue. I'm excited to see how this turns out. Okay. All right. Switch to a different stencil. We can get that lined up in that top corner again. It helps us get it lined up better, you know, right off the bat. Okay. And let's do the color, let's do blueberry. I haven't really ever used a ton of blueberry, so we'll see how this goes. Hopefully it won't be too dark, you know, with the midnight center. But I am going to have the center kind of fade, so maybe we'll be okay. Because I haven't used blueberry very much, it is very juicy. So I am having to be very careful as I come in and start blending. I also know that Concord and 9th inks do kind of dry back. So they might look really intense when you first apply them, but they do smooth out and dry back quite a bit. So even if this blueberry ink, when I apply it now, looks a little bit intense, I imagine it will probably fade back just a little bit once it's fully dry. just getting that all the way around there. Getting that blue over here. And just go full dark saturation up on those edges since it doesn't show very much of the flower. Okay, let me blend this in. Okay, the other question I have for you all in the chat, have you had dinner yet tonight? And if you have, what did you have? I have not had dinner yet. Hit me with your best dinner ideas. I'm going to crowdsource dinner tonight. Oh, I forgot to get this one little spot. Before I lift it, we'll get that right there. Oh, and this top corner. That would have been sad. Did I get everything else? I did. Okay, we'll lift this up. Ooh, that's pretty. I like that. It kind of looks a little bit tropical. Is that weird to say for like blues? I think it's the shape of the flower. Kind of looks a little bit tropical to me. Okay, another stencil. Get this lined up the best we can. All right, and let's do harbor this time. Oh, tater tot casserole. That's a good idea. I actually have some tater tot casserole in the freezer that I totally could put in. All right, I need a pale blue blending brush for this one. I actually have the card filmed that I'm going to share with you guys later this week that has a bunch of blue ink blending on it. So I just might be on a little bit of a blue ink blending kick. And another thing that I did with a bunch of my samples when I was using the stencil is I just omitted one of the flower layers. I kept them as white flowers. So let's take a look at this after I'm done ink blending it, because we might not want to have that last flower stencil ink blended with Oceanside. Like maybe we want a little bit of a lighter flower. We just want white flowers. I think it looks pretty. You can just omit one of the layers and then you have white. All right, that only had 3 little flowers. Well, bigger flowers actually. So let's decide, do we want to just have white flowers? I kind of think I want them colored in just because everything else has a little bit of ink blending going in. So I don't think I necessarily want them to be white. But if I had done like flat ink blending, like not faded, I think that would look really nice. So let's do these last ones with Oceanside. Get this lined up just right. The best that I can. Only 4 little flowers anyway. Homemade carnitas bowls. Oh, that sounds delicious. Ooh, Ooh, I think my Oceanside ink pad is recently re-inked or something. It is very juicy. I must have re-inked it recently because Oceanside is one of the original colors from Concord and Night. So this ink pad's probably a few years old. And all of my original ink pads from Concord and Ninth have had to be re-inked because, you know, they do need a little bit more re-inking. And this one is particularly juicy. Ooh, Vicky's making fettuccine. Oh, that sounds so good. I'm so hungry, y'all. I need to figure out dinner quick. I might have to text my husband and be like, preheat the oven. We're putting in that tater tot casserole. It's in the freezer. Tater tot hot dish. Yeah. Barb, or Jennifer says, Barb, I'm from the home state of tater tot hot dish, and it's okay to just say no. You know, I made it with sweet potato tater tots, and it like changed the whole feel of it. It gives it a very different flavor. It was really interesting. So that's the kind that I have in the freezer. It does freeze really well. Like, freeze it before you put it in the oven, or before you put it in the oven. Like, layer everything, and then, yeah. Sadly, my husband does not like casseroles. And I grew up on casseroles and love them. That one I did not do very conscientious blending on, but that's okay. Okay. Let me put these blending brushes back in their little homes. Okay. Come on, Stencil. I don't want to break a nail lifting you up off the grip mat. Okay, that's kind of fun. I like that. I like that. All right, let's lift this off the grip mat, and then there's one more thing I want to do to finish this background. For one thing, get the ink off my nails. Clean the grip mat. Okay. All right, we'll put this away. We can get rid of these little things on the sides. Put my rubbing alcohol away and put the cover on my grip mat. And I can just lift it up and away. Okay, so I was thinking, wouldn't this be fun with like some little white dots in the centers of the flowers with a white gel pen? Is anyone else thinking that? Just me? I think it'd be kind of cute. Or doing like a full white circle, maybe? I don't know. Let's try it just over on the side here, because I could possibly cut it off. Oh, that's going to be cute. We're doing it. And because the C9 inks are, they like react with moisture, the white gel pen, I'm fully anticipating it will pull up some of that midnight ink color, and the dots might turn like a pale blue, which I'm totally okay with. So for the, depending on the size of the flower, I'm varying the size of the dots. Okay. Leftover spaghetti sandwiches? Oh, I don't know that I've ever heard of anything like that. Is it like similar to like a meatball sub? Basically like a meat sauce? Is it something like that? Or are you like full on putting spaghetti pasta on a sandwich? I'm really curious. Okay, I think I got all those centers. Lovely. Okay, so here are the two backgrounds. Really different looks, right? One has that gold embossing line from the stamp, and then this other one is just the stencil. So fun. Okay, let's stamp some greetings to go on these cards. I was thinking I would use, well, first of all, I'm going to have to get that background stamp out of my MISTI. Or I guess I could use my other MISTI. I have two MISTIs now. Because this one that my black one had, one of the hinges was starting, this hinge down here was starting to pop out the bottom. And I gently nudged it back in. In fact, it's starting to come out again. But I nudged it back in and it's done great ever since. So I'm like, okay, I fixed it. All right, just gonna clean off the stamp a little bit. It just has that embossing ink on it. Okay, and I'm gonna very carefully peel it up. I'm like putting my fingernails underneath and kind of coaxing it up away. I'm trying to not stretch the stamp as I remove it. Hey, Betsy. Oh, you put the spaghetti on the bread. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I love to put the stamps, especially background stamps, back on the sheets by putting it face down on the door of my MISTI and then taking the design sheet, the backer, and laying it over top so I can get it lined up just right. That's what I like to do. Okay. All right, so I thought I would use the encouraging words, stamps and dies. I love all of these greetings, and I love the die cut greetings as well for like a secondary greeting if you want. So basically it has all of these. You've got the bigger stamped greetings, and then you have the smaller ones as well. This Hope Today is a Good Day is like the perfect size for a Portrait A2 card. So I know I definitely want to do that one. But I think the Brighter Days Are Coming would be great on a landscape card. And possibly even pairing it with Brighter Days Are Coming, Hang in There. I think that could totally be really cute. So let's stamp both of those greetings. I'm thinking, let's see, do you want to do, I was thinking vellum, but also maybe not vellum, maybe just white with gold. But I also don't want to like completely cover up the background, you know what I'm saying? The vellum will obscure it anyway. Let's just go for white. Ooh, or what if it was midnight cardstock? Midnight cardstock, because we've got that blue background. We'll do the midnight cardstock with gold embossing. I love that idea. All right, I've got to go grab some midnight cardstock. It's all the way across my craft room. I don't even know the last time I used midnight cardstock. Okay. have like a nice 6x6 sheet. That, well, actually, I have a small one that I could use. Yeah, we'll use this smaller one. Okay. And then I can stamp both greetings at the same time, and we'll cut them out at the same time as well. So we have the brighter days are coming. Maybe I'll put it down here at the bottom. We'll do it at the bottom. And then also hope today is a good day. Put that one right there. Make sure it's down in that bottom corner. Pick these up. And I'm going to use, you know what, let's use that same embossing and watermark ink. That worked great. But before I do that, I'm going to do my anti-static powder tool. Jennifer! Thank you, Jennifer, for the super chat. That's so sweet. Thank you. It should be like, let's go get coffee. Okay, this powder tool is putting out a lot of powder. It's showing up on this dark cardstock. I'm not worried about it because you can wipe off, like, I'd say 99% of all of that powder using a microfiber towel, which I'll use to clean things up. So I'm using Hero Arts Embossing and Watermark ink again. Andrea, does anyone else see irony in brighter days being on a dark cardstock? You know what though? It's going to be in gold, which is bright. There you go. Okay, making sure this is in that bottom corner. Come on, go in the bottom corner. And then just barely want to have this kiss down. I don't want the lines of the stamp to blob out. So I'm just giving it a little bit of pressure. Make sure I've got that. Oh, lovely. You know what? I need a little bit more pressure down here on the R. Perfect. I'm glad I did it in the embossing ink because that looks beautiful. All right, and now I'll clean that in a bit. I'm going to go ahead and do my gold embossing powder. Slides right off. I love using a powder tool that like puts out lots of powder. It's so great. Those are going to be great. Okay. Let this heat up a little bit away from my project, and then I'll bring it over. Ooh, that turns so bright. I love it. Okay, I am loving this gilded embossing powder on the blue. Isn't that just striking? I love it. Okay, I'm gonna grab a microfiber cloth. I'm gonna let this cool off for just a minute because I don't wanna wipe over if it's still hot. Okay, I think we're good. So notice all the like powder all over it. Put a little elbow grease into it and you can start to take off all of the powder lines off the cardstock. I think it's just amazing. Sometimes you can also just use like the oils on your hand. It'll pick up the powder. But I think it's totally worth it for a better embossing result. Having so much powder on there. Okay. I'm going to cut off just a little bit right there so I can save that, put that in my scraps. And before I die cut, I'm just going to peel these off. You know, when I use an embossing ink or Versamark or something on my stamps, I rarely clean them off. Okay, I'll hit this with a baby wipe. So this one is clean. I'll clean this one too, but a lot of times I don't clean it at all because it's clear. And technically, if your stamps aren't stamping very well, you can use a clear embossing ink to almost prime. I say prime because it's not really priming it, but it's making the surface of the stamp a little more sticky so that the ink will, you know, apply to the stamp better, and then you get a better result when you stamp. It's kind of great. Okay, so we've got our dies here. Let's get these cut out. All right, so I know it's this one. And then, oh, is it this one? Yeah, it's that one. Okay, I think the like navy cardstock, the midnight cardstock on, you know, with the gold embossing, I think it's going to be a really good move. So I'm using my magnetic mat here, which will help keep everything in place, but I'm going to be die cutting both of these at the same time, and I don't want there to be any chance of it shifting around. So I'm just going to help it along by having just a little bit of tape holding these in place. It won't hurt a bit, just having it taped a little bit so things don't move. Okay, run this through my die cutting machine. Oh, Holly. Oh, fellow Utah. Thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you, Holly. Okay. Oh, yeah. The blue was a good move, y'all. I think it's going to look great on these backgrounds. All right. We'll put this back together. Oh, just kidding. It was like that. Okay, and then we'll see if we have space for any other like subgradings or something. Let's see what the backgrounds look like. Okay. So I was thinking we could like, yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. I think I want a little bit of white showing on the card front. So let's cut these down just a little bit. I'm going to grab my Waffle Flower A2 Layers dies, and then I can get it kind of centered where I want it. And we'll die cut them. Put those to the side, move these out of the way, and we can die cut these. Oh, thank you, Lisa. All right, I'm thinking if I cut it like this, is that still going to be enough space for the grading? Oh yeah, that looks great. In fact, I think it could even go a little bit smaller. I'm not afraid of a nice bold border. Yeah. Oh, that's going to look really nice. I like that. I really do. Okay. We'll run this through. In fact, I'm going to tip it at an angle. Die cut that really quick. Oh, thanks for stopping by, Molly. I'm going to have to go back and see what you were telling everyone that was so funny. I feel like I missed it. Okay, let's see if for this one, if that same like size will work. Yeah, I think the same size could work. We'll do the same size. I'll just run this through. my word. There must be some faint from the blue over here. It transferred to my flowers. That's okay. The grading's going to go over the top of most of that. But you guys see how that, it like, some of the edge from that one must be on my plate. I've got to make sure I clean it off. But the really obvious part will be covered up, so I'm not that concerned. Thankfully. But that does make me want to do this. And then put this to the side to dry completely, because we don't want that ink transferring anymore. Oh my word, look how gross. Ugh. Okay. Cleaning that off really well. You know what? This one has been used for who knows how long. It might be time to retire it. Well, I'll have to test it later. We'll see what happens. Thankfully, I think that's going to be the last of the die cutting for tonight. Except, you know what? That one die, I can tell there's like blue on it. Well, maybe not. We're good. Oh, yes, alcohol spray. I'd probably clean that off really well, too. Oh, thank you, Betsy. That was a baby wipe. I'm going to grab 2 card fronts. Just white ones. So I can do both of these. And I'm thinking I'm going to put these directly onto, I'm going to glue them directly onto the card front, and then I'll pop up the greetings. Okay. Cards are opening like this. I'll just get that centered. Oh, sorry, my camera just blipped out. I'm not sure why it's been doing that recently. Thankfully, it's usually just a split second. All right, hold on. How is this opening? Okay, it's opening at the top. Okay, and then I've got some Altenew foam tape. So I can do foam tape on the back of these. Just 2 bits of foam on the back of that one I think will work. This one I might have to do 3. Oh, almost the perfect amount of foam tape. Almost, just this one little bit left. Almost the perfect amount of foam tape. I love when I just randomly cut off the perfect amount of foam tape. It doesn't happen very often though. Ooh, Creativity Playground says, my C9 order arrives tomorrow. Can't wait. What did you order? Let us know. Oh my word, it blipped out again. I must have like a loose cord or something. Oh, Andrea. She says, speaking of garlic bread, we went to an Italian restaurant once and I ordered garlic bread. Apparently they had a different, hold on, I gotta scroll up. They had a different view of garlic bread than I, because there was no garlic in my opinion. Never went back. Oh, that sounds horrible. Okay. So these are pretty simple cards, actually. Not a whole lot going on them. You know, just the background and then the greeting. But I think they turned out pretty good. All right. 2 cards in under 90 minutes. Not bad from start to finish. Love it. Okay, so I'm going to do a little spiel for those watching the edited replay, which will go up tomorrow. And then I we'll maybe answer some questions in the chat a little bit, and then we'll close up for tonight. So here we go. So here are the 2 finished cards for tonight. Both of them were finished in under 90 minutes. Really quick and easy. I love using stencils like that. I think they turned out great. Once again, this was the Pretty Posies stencil set as well. And over here, it was the Pretty Posies background also. And then I used the Encouraging Words stamp and dies. So I'll have everything linked down below in the supply section if you want to check that out. And if you're looking for other stencil sets that are a little bit like this, check out my products over at the Concord and Ninth website. I believe there's a way you can just look at stencils, and I've done probably 4 or 5 different stencil sets that layer like this. There's one that's, you know, leaves and berries for the holidays. There's one called Simple Flowers that has big overlapping flowers. That was, you know, I think that was the February release, or maybe January, I can't remember. But this is another one, and then don't you worry, more are on the way. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all in another video very soon. Oh my word, it blipped out at just the right moment. Okay. Let's see. Shai is asking, will you use the cutoff frames from the trimming of 2 cards? That would be gorgeous. You know what? I still have the little frames. Well, I did. One got next to a baby wipe, so maybe not. Both of them were touched by a baby wipe, so... Oh no, this one's actually okay. It's not too bad. This frame's okay. I think I probably could use it. I think that'd be really pretty. But also, if you were to use that big huge stencil and have done like a full half letter size piece of cardstock, I could have got, you know, for this one, I could have got 2 card fronts out of it. Okay, let's see here. Oh, thank you, Michelle. Michelle says, I love the faded centers on the flowers. It gives just the right amount of white on the cards. Just beautiful. Thank you. I love that too. I love doing like that fade off into the center. Let's see here. Question. Will my A2 frames be back soon? I would assume they'll be back soon. When things sell out, Concord and Ninth is pretty quick about ordering replacements, ordering more stock. I do know there's been a little bit of a delay because of Chinese New Year. So thank you for your patience. I'm sure they will be back in stock soon. I don't know, like, I'm not privy to like exactly when things are reordered. I mean, they'll tell me if I ask them, but they're not, you know, they don't fill me in on the everyday minutia of like that. That's why I teamed up with the Concord and Ninth, because they have awesome business people that keep track of inventory and things like that. So I'm so glad I can just trust them with things like that. I trust that they will be back in stock soon. I'm so sorry you have to wait. I know that's hard. Let's see here. Ooh, Lisa says, I'm going to start watercolor. What paint do you recommend? Oh gosh. Well, it really depends on how much money you want to throw at this. If you really think you're going to love watercoloring, okay, I have to back this up. Okay, there's a couple scenarios. If you are a card maker and you already have like dye inks in your stash, let's say you have Distress inks, or you have Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks, or the Concord and Ninth inks. All 3 of those brands in particular, I know watercolor really well. For example, if you go back a couple of weeks for my lives, I did watercoloring with, was it Distress inks? I think it was. Yeah, watercoloring with Distress reinkers. You can also just smush the ink pad down. Last week, I did watercoloring with Concord and Ninth inks. So that's one way that you can kind of get a feel for watercolor and painting with inks, with things you might already have. So all you would need to really invest in is some watercolor paper to really get a feel for how much water you can use. Now, if you're going to go a step up from that and you're looking for a more inexpensive watercolor set to get started, I would recommend the, gosh, it's the Sakura Koi Pocket Filled Sketch Box. Is that what it's called? Hold on, let me grab it. It's the one that I got right off the bat when I first started watercolor painting. In fact, I believe it's still the original set that I bought. Actually, I didn't buy it. Heidi over at Simon Says Stamp sent it to me, and it's worked out so well. It is called, hold on, let me put this little tray back in. Sakura Koi pocket-filled sketch box. That's what it is. And it sells for somewhere around $25 to $30. It's fantastic. It actually comes with a little water brush, which I don't use. But these colors in here are actually really nice and creamy. I would recommend it to anyone who's first starting out watercoloring. Now, if you know you're going to be doing a lot of watercoloring and you're going to love it, and you're like, you know what, I don't need to, you know, just give me the good stuff. That is when I would go with, let me see if I have this palette still. Hold on. And those of you who have followed me for quite some time, you probably already know what I'm going to say. You're going to get the Magello Mission Gold watercolors, which are available at Amazon. I actually bought a separate palette and then the big, huge tubes of the Magello Mission Gold. But this is the set. I jumped in head first once I knew I was going to like these watercolors. There is another set that comes with a palette and all the tubes for you to set it up. Crafters love this set, so I know there's lots of YouTube videos on it, on how to set up your palette. So it's the Magello Mission Gold watercolors. You'll find them at Amazon. Magello is spelled like that, M-I-J-E-L-L-O. If you do want to set up a palette like mine, you're going to look for the Bulletproof Glass palette. Magello makes great palettes. I have a few of them. I love them all. Yeah, those are really great. I love those. Not too long ago, I took my favorite Magello Gold paints and I made a little tiny little travel set, which I have not had a chance to use. But it has a little ceramic, do you hear that? It's a ceramic palette inside, and I just put my most used colors just in there and I let them dry. So I have yet to use this. I'm going to be going to Hawaii next month, end of April, so I'm probably going to take it with me then. But I have that little palette there. I also have another little travel palette, but the Mission Gold paints are fantastic. I would recommend them to anyone. They're not crazy expensive, but they're not the cheapest either. So I think it's like one step up from the Sakura Koi pocket-filled sketch box. Okay, that was a very long answer. Sorry. Like, don't get me started on watercolors. I will just go off on it. Okay. Ooh, Merlin. I received my order of the March 2025 product release bundle. So excited to open after the live. Love that. I hope you love it. Spill the beans on the upcoming stencils. I can't remember what stencil I have coming out in April, but I just finished my May designs, and the May stencil, there's a couple of them. One of them is very similar to the Simple Flower stencil. Big flower shapes, really great overlapping. I'm sitting here looking at the envelope I did for my premium members with this Simple Flower stencil, and I just want to show you. So it actually, like the video showing this envelope is exclusive to the Supporter Plus members of my channel. So if you want to see how this was made, you would go and do that. But also, Denise did let me use her address. But, you know, yeah, it's fine. She said I could use it. So big open flower shape so you can get that really nice blend into the center. That's an example of the type of stencil I'm just in love with right now. So similar idea where you've got really big shapes overlapping. Yeah, I think you're all going to love it. I cannot wait to get it. I just finished the design a couple weeks ago, so I don't even have a sample of it yet. I'm really excited. But that's in May, so it's going to be a while. Laurie says, what is the best thing to use for the embossing? I really want to do that. You're talking about like the gold embossing here, that type of thing. So you're going to need just a few things. One of the most important things you need is a heat tool. I really like this one from Wow. It actually has two settings on it, a high speed and a slow speed, or high and low power, if you want to call it that way. I generally only use the high setting, but I do like that I have the option to go to that low setting, like maybe if I'm drying some watercolor or something like that. That's kind of nice. You're also going to need an embossing ink. The two that I would recommend, you want a clear embossing ink. Either of these is great. The Hero Arts Embossing and Watermark ink, that's the one I used today, or Versamark. One or the other is great. And then I think for general crafting, you're also going to want a white pigment ink. I find it's much easier to do some white heat embossing on a dark surface if I have first stamped my image or greeting in white pigment ink. So I would also recommend using a white pigment ink if you're going to be stamping on a dark surface. So those are the types of inks that you can heat emboss with. I also like to use an anti-static powder tool before I start heat embossing. The one I use today is from SSS Stamp. It's just their anti-static powder tool. Here's another one that's really nice. This one is from Rabbit Hole Designs. And I can't remember what they call this one, but it has a brush on one end, and you can see the powder inside, and you can kind of pump this right here, and the powder comes out in a larger amount. I would recommend those powder tools. You're going to need some embossing powder. I love the embossing powders from Brutus Monroe and Hero Arts and Ranger. I've had really good results from all three of those brands. And also today you saw me use a microfiber cloth to clean off the white anti-static powder. So I would recommend a microfiber cloth. These pink ones are from Pink and Maine. And I also have some black ones from SSS Stamp, which is kind of nice. I use these cloths all the time. I use them when I'm cleaning off my stencils. Like you can see, I got ink all over this one. I use them when I clean up my embossing. They're great. That was a lot of supplies for just heat embossing, but if you want the best results, that's what I would recommend. Okay. Toilet's asking, how are your hubby and pets? They're doing great. Fred and Kevin, my two cats, are spoiled rotten. My friend that was visiting in town, she has 3 cats of her own at home, and so she was giving them lots of snuggles. They were just loving it. So cats are doing great. Husband's doing great. Thankfully, we're happy in a good place right now. Both of us are over colds and whatever sicknesses we've had over the last little bit, so that's been great. Andrea says, I think the flowers look airbrushed. So pretty. That's amazing. I just got a super sticker from Twyla. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Let's see here. Scrolling back up to catch the rest of the, let's see. Hold on, I'm scrolling up. Okay, here we go. La, la, la. Christy says, can we request a frame set with the wide edge for no warping? Yeah. Because are you talking about like these? Like some additional frames? I think I do want to come out with some additional thin frames dies that fill in like the measurement in between, and then one more that's just slightly smaller for both the A2 and the A7. I do think I want to do that. I have it on my list. So it would be like 2 more packs of thin frames dies. So I do want to do that. That's on my list. TJ is saying, could you do this again with the centers darker instead of sometime? I'd like to see the different look. Are you talking about this over here? Like these centers darker? I mean, I guess you could. I mean, you got the darker one over here. Is that what you mean? Let's see here. Oh, Lori says, May Lang watercolor paints are wonderful for just starting out, and they're very reasonably priced on Amazon. That's great. Yes, Andrea, there is a larger set. In fact, I have that larger set, but I love the colors in that smaller set. I think it's 24 colors. That's the one that I recommend. I think too many colors can almost be overwhelming. Okay. Andrea's concurring. Magellan Mission Gold, yes. Betsy, you can hear the excitement in Christina's voice with this watercolor question. I'm telling you, there's a few topics in life that you could ask me about, and you're going to get 5-hour discourse on it. Like, what is something in your life that someone could ask you about, and without any need for research or prompting or anything, you can just talk about it straight for 10 minutes. That is like watercolor for me, and probably paper crafting in general. And what else could I talk about for 10 minutes straight? Oh my word, the show Paradise. I just finished that last week. Wow, what a roller coaster ride. I could talk about Paradise for 10 minutes straight. My friend that was in town this weekend, I had already watched the entire season, all 8 shows, all 8 episodes, and I rewatched them with her. It was great. We were in pajamas, just like veg all weekend. It was great. Okay, let's see here. TJ is asking, how do you stop them cracking on drying? I believe TJ is referring to the watercolors. Depending on how the watercolors are made, you're just going to get a little bit of that cracking. It's from the paints actually shrinking. I really don't worry about that too much. After you start using them and you start adding water to the different pans, the water will fill in those cracks. And after a couple of times using that color, it'll all fill in all of the cracks. You're only really going to see the cracks right after you initially set up your palette. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Let's see. Lisa says, I love your cards so much and I recently discovered you through YouTube and bought your whole collection. Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you. The watercolor paper and embossing powder you used in your previous video. Thank you. That's awesome. I'm so glad you were inspired and wanted to buy it. That's great. I hope you're loving all of it. Let's see here. Oh, Denise, yes, I'm so sorry. I have not mailed it. It's sitting here in front of me because I'm trying to remind myself to put a card in and mail it. It'll get there. It'll get sent out at some point, I promise. Let's see here. Linda says, I really love the simple flowers, but I'm torn between them and Posy, like the pretty Posies I used today. Which one would you start with? It depends. The simple flowers stencils, I think, are a little bit more forgiving. You don't have to have them lined up perfectly. With these, you kind of do because you've got the flowers are overlapping, so you really need to get them lined up. But with the simple flowers, like there's no background to it and everything's just overlapping. The only thing you really have to get in the right spot and lined up is the centers of the flowers. So in that case, I still would recommend doing those 2 taped corners, like the top and bottom corners, like I showed you tonight. I would still recommend doing that with the simple flower stencil, but it is a little bit more forgiving. And like I said, these areas are much larger, so you can really get a lot of blend on there. And it also offers the opportunity to change colors on the flowers if you wanted to. I think that would be really beautiful too. They're just different looks, you know. And I also think the simple flower stencil, does it only have 4 stencils? It might only have 4 stencils, whereas the Pretty Posies has 6. So I think there's a little bit of a price difference there as well. Do you use the color cube to determine what color you use or something else? I have in the past. In fact, I want to say I did all color cube videos and cards. Was it a year ago in March? It may have been a year ago in March. I used it quite a bit. I haven't broken it out as of late. I should do that. That's a great suggestion. Let's see here. Scrolling through. Christelle, is that how you say your name? Crystal or Christelle? I'm not sure. Which blending brushes were you using? The small ones. These are the mini blending brushes from Altenew, and they are fantastic. I would highly recommend them. Concord and Ninth has, they sell these enamel dots, and I happen to have quite a few in kind of like the basic colors. So our friend Sika, actually, who's in the chat a lot, she actually went through and put enamel dots on them for me when she was visiting me last year. So, or not even a year ago, maybe 6 months ago. So I've had these ever since. And then I have this lipstick container. It's meant for lipsticks. And that's where I keep these standing up. And then these little mini blending brushes are from Waffle Flower. So maybe you were asking which little mini brush I was using. And it's a size 0 shader from Waffle Flower. And I don't use these as often, but every once in a while I really do like to break them out because I need to use them. So these are all from Waffle Flower. Although I think one of these might be from Pink Fresh. I'm not sure. I think they're all Waffle Flower. So those are the smaller blending brushes. I have basically 5 different blending brush sets that I use for different purposes, which is kind of a little extra. But I do use them and I enjoy them. Let's see here. Larry said, what is the best embossing and die cutting machine? I have the Cuttlebug and it's getting hard for me to use. I do all of my die cutting, I use the Anna Griffin Empress. When I'm doing embossing, like embossing folders, if they are a 3D embossing folder from Spellbinders, I actually use the Spellbinders Platinum 6. I have just had better luck with that one with their universal platform system because it's made for the thickness of their 3D embossing folders. That being said, other companies have 3D embossing folders and I have used them in my Anna Griffin Empress. And you just have to like experiment and see what sandwich works for your machine. Basically, you want to start out much thinner than you think you need and just keep adding shims or adding plates until you get the perfect thickness for your embossing folder in that machine. And you can do that for whatever machine you want. If you're looking for just a general die cutting machine, I would really recommend the Anna Griffin Empress. I have no complaints about it. It's fantastic. It has one of the thickest magnetic mats on the market. And because of that, you can cut directly into the magnetic mat. I mean, in their instructions, it doesn't say to do so, but Anna Griffin herself does this. And you just know that when you do it and you're cutting into the magnetic mat itself, that the magnetic mat will sort of like spread and warp over time, and it will affect the pressure that you get in your sandwich. So you might have to add another shim in at one point. But basically, I cut into both the cutting plates and the magnetic mat, depending on what I'm doing. If it's a very intricate die cut, I will go into the clear plate. If it's something where I'm lining it up over a stamp, I'm going to go into the magnetic mat. I do both, and I have great results. I loathed die cutting until I got my Empress machine. And because the plates don't warp as easily, it is just, I love it. I love it. I cannot say enough good things about it. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that they regret buying an Empress. Now that I've said that, someone's going to come out of the woodwork. But I'm telling you, 99% of the people I've heard from love their Empress. They have no problems. Let's see here. Oh, yes. Rebecca says, you said you're going to Hawaii next month. Hubby came in and started talking, so I missed it. Anyway, can you get some more of those amazing pineapple? Yes. Don't you worry. We already have our pineapple tour booked. We are getting pineapple. And it's going to be at the beginning of the trip so we can enjoy pineapple all throughout. I love it. Let's see here. Oh, I love it. I'm really far behind on the comments. But Leanne's like, there will be many who recommend the Anna Griffin Empress. Yes, that is the one. Amrita says, would love to see more greetings in the Missing Your Hugs font style. I want to do more in that one too. I really loved that. That was great. I loved lettering those greetings. That was great. Don't forget Disney and Harry Potter. What is this in reference to? Oh, Paradise. Or talking about things for 10 minutes. Yeah, I could talk Disney parks for 10 minutes. I could probably talk Harry Potter for 10 minutes, but I really feel like I need to reread it. Sika started reading Harry Potter. I think she slowed down because she wanted to savor it. But Sika, how far in the series are you? Did you finish? I don't know if she finished yet or not. Let's see her. Let's see. Oh, I love this. TJ, you have inspired me. I have to make some Hawaiian shirt man cards now and it's 1:45 a.m. Good luck. Good luck, TJ. I love it. Let's see here. Lots of love for the Empress. Happy Joy Card says that she loves the Elvis stamp. It's one of my favorites. I think I've only got a few left. I love that one too. It's one of my favorites. Let's see here. Yes, that is the same lipstick holder that Jennifer uses. And I use that same exact one for the larger Pink Fresh brushes, and I just have lots of empty slots because the brushes are big. Let's see here. I'm scrolling through. I'm nearing the bottom here. Christy says she missed the live. She'll watch the replay. Awesome. Oh, Crafty Girls. Carlin says, I regret waiting so long to use my Empress. Did you have it in your possession and you just didn't break it out? I know the feeling. Are we going to the Dole Plantation? No, we're going to be on Maui. So we're going to Maui Gold. It's one I've been to before, and I was like, okay, we're going back because it was an amazing tour. Yeah, love it. Sika says, not finished with Harry Potter. Love it. Betsy, I think a lot of us could talk Disney for hours. Yes, that is very true. Creativity Playground says, it may be because I'm a teacher, but 10 minutes does not feel that long. LOL, I can talk about Shakespeare, Star Trek, Harry Potter, crafting, and more for hours. Yes, absolutely. I just say 10 minutes because that's, you know, whatever. I could probably talk an hour on most of those things. Just, you know, keep going. Give me like a couple of minutes to organize my thoughts and I'm good. I love it. Let's see here. Julie asked a question, but I don't know if it's a full question. How do you manage to part with stamps among your... Oh, do you mean like postage stamps, like my favorites? I think that's what you mean. I generally will use my stash of whatever postage stamp it is until there's 2 left. And then when there's 2 left, I panic a little bit and I try to find someone online who's selling them. That's generally my MO. What reinkers from Tim Holtz would you recommend for painting on cards? I love all the colors, but the ones that I use most often, because you can kind of get a rainbow, there's 3. I would recommend Picked Raspberry, Squeezed Lemonade, and Mermaid Lagoon. Those are kind of like your magenta, yellow, and cyan. Like if you think about your inkjet printer, it probably has those ink cartridges that go in the printer, and they're cyan, magenta, and yellow. And that's because those 3 colors can really make every other color you need. So I use those 3 in particular quite a bit. So I would recommend those 3. Questions. Does each color need its own blending brush? I say like each color family. I wouldn't say each specific ink color. Like I basically have for my blending brushes, I have a light blue and a dark blue, a light pink and a dark pink. So basically I have, you know, 2 shades for each color of the rainbow, plus like brown, and I have one for grays and blacks. Okay, let's see here. What embossing powders are best to use? I would say any of the ones by Brutus Monroe. The ones I use most are white, which he calls alabaster, Brutus Monroe's alabaster, and Brutus Monroe's gilded, which is the gold color that I use tonight. I would recommend those 2, white and gold. Those are by far the ones that I use the most. I think the 3rd most after that would be clear. You can do a lot with clear. Do I have different blending brushes for different brands of ink? No, I basically have for different types of ink. Basically, you've got a couple different types of ink. You've got dye or pigment, and also like Distress Oxide, I would consider a pigment ink because it's kind of a hybrid. So most all of the inks out there you're going to get from companies are dye-based. So whether I'm using C9 inks or Simon Says Stamp or what else is in my stash here, the original Distress inks, those are all dye inks. I will use the same brushes for those types of inks. However, I do have one set of brushes that are specifically for Distress Oxide inks. And that's because you just don't want to mix those 2 types of inks together. The oxide ink can contaminate your dye ink pads, and vice versa. Your dye inks can contaminate your oxide ink pad. So you don't want to mix those and possibly use the same blending brushes on both. If you do only have one set of blending brushes and you need to switch between those different types of inks, I would just recommend cleaning your brush after each before going into the different ink. Let's see here. Oh, Moni, that sounds so great. 5 years ago, you took an Animal Crossing group. There goes my camera again. I bought the game and play every morning with my coffee to start my day in happiness. I think that sounds like the most peaceful, lovely start to your day. I'm afraid to turn on my Nintendo Switch to look at my Animal Crossing game because I guarantee all of my villagers will want to be leaving the island. It's been so long, sadly. Rosie, my brain just went cyan, Magello, and gold. I love it. Let's see here. What would you suggest for storing your stencils in as they are larger than others? I am using, let me grab this one right here because I can show you. Let me grab my stencils as well. Okay, so this is one of the largest pockets that Simon Says Stamp sells. That's what I'm currently storing my stencils in. And when it's part of a bundle, I store everything together. I have the dies on the back. I store everything together. So I've got the, where'd the background stamp go? Here we go. Oh, and I've got more of that, one more stencil of that. I've got the background stamp right here. So I'll put that in the bundle as well. I store them all together. But Simon Says Stamp has some storage pockets. You're just going to look for the largest one. Let me measure it really quick. I'm pretty sure it's like a 7 by 9 or something. It is 9.5 tall by 6 7/8. It's almost 7 inches. That's the size, but that's how I store my stencils. I cut a piece of black cardstock that fits the pocket, and then, you know, just so I can see the stencils through it, and then I store them all together. So it's like one big bundle. Everything's all together. Okay. Oh, yes, good call, Shlyn. Well, at least I was using them in the same color family. Now I know not to swap between oxide and ink with distress. Yes, that is correct. I would recommend that. All right. We've been going for about 2 hours. I think we're going to close up for the night. I'm just putting my stamps and dies back in this little package. Speaking of, I used the same for this one because it will fit the 6x6 stamp set. But this one doesn't have a stencil, so it just has a white backer. But that's how I store those. Thanks so much for joining me tonight for some stenciling and making a couple of cards. I'll be back with a card that I made specifically for a baby shower. I'll be back with that later this week. I'm hoping for Wednesday, but it'll probably be more like Thursday. But thanks so much for joining me tonight. I will see you again very, very soon. Thank you so much for all those very generous super chats and stickers in the chat. I appreciate you all so much. And if you feel inclined, you can join my premium community here at YouTube. Somewhere on your YouTube app or on your screen or somewhere, you might see a join button. You can click that and you can join my premium community. I do a couple of live streams with them every month, plus a Zoom call where people can get to know each other. There's some great opportunities for that community. Have a lovely evening, and I will catch you all later. Thanks for watching and joining me tonight.